Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to St. Barts. We are here today, as you can see, in the mighty Just Flight Piper Warrior. A little bit different of a flight today. I want to show you guys something. Alright, first of all, let me get my headset squared away. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different. Let's go to General. Let's go to global rendering quality. We're in DX12, low end, medium, high end, ultra. There we go, baby. We're going to try full ultra on a GTX 1080. The only thing I'm going to do is turn off motion blur. And that is so I don't vomit. Because motion blur is the worst effect I've ever come across in any game or anything. I have no idea why anybody would use it. It's appalling in every way. Alright, so let's go. Rotating beacon on. Mixture is rich. Carb heat is cold. Master and battery switches on. Fuel pump on. Throttle cracked a ½ inch. Let's see if there's anybody out here to kill or maim. There is not. Or even injure slightly. We don't want to even injure somebody slightly. Alright. Start the engine. Good start. We want 1200 on the RPM for warm-up. Alright. And oil pressure is good. Let's turn the fuel pump off, check the fuel pressure. And one thing I have suspected for a long time, I have finally confirmed. The sim doesn't, even though I changed the fuel in the map page, the world map page, it did not update it. So I kind of suspected that yesterday, and now I have confirmed it. It kept my luggage that I had in the plane. It did not keep my fuel. So we are now properly fueled. You fuel it to the tabs in a Cherokee, generally speaking. 18 gallons each side. Alright, so let's lean the mixture for taxi. Avionics master switch on. Let's make sure we don't have any controllers. We do not. 122.8 is our frequency. 122.8 is how we roll. Alright, so we are on full ultra. Gonna swing it around to the left here, provided there's nothing over here behind me. I don't think there is. About a year and a half ago or so, I started a comment, or I made a comment on the official Microsoft Flight Simulator forums, asking them to turn the planes around. And I was eventually told that they had received my recommendation and would do so. And let's test the brakes. Brakes are working just fine. Reason is nobody parks an airplane nose in. You know, if you're a jet, you know, parking at, you know, gate 27 at Miami, yes, you park it nose in. Jesus, truck. But nobody parks a general aviation plane nose in. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody does it. Alright, 2 notches of flaps. Let's go fuel pump on. And let's sit here and wait for a truck that's sitting on the end of the runway for no apparent reason at all. If you can't tell, I am irritated and annoyed by that because it's just Alright, there's no traffic coming in. Let's see if I move out onto the runway if he's going to go anywhere. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the whole cars on runways thing with Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's absurd. Anyway, let's go fuel pump on, mixture rich, flaps are set. Let's make sure our trim is set for takeoff. Slightly after neutral is fine. And we're going to go out to the very, very end of the runway. St. Barts traffic. The Cherokee Foxtrot Delta Oscar is taking runway 10 for departure to the south, St. Barts. And let's get all the way out on the very, very end of the runway. Alright. Alright, there's runway 10. Heading indicator checks with the runway number. Brakes are set. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. 2350 is correct. Release the brakes. Oil pressure is in the green. That's the only thing I care about. Airspeed is alive. There's two things I care about in a Cherokee on once the airplane gets rolling. And that's number 1, oil pressure. Number 2, airspeed indicator. The reason is, let's make a left-hand turn here to a heading 060. The reason is you want oil pressure because that is very important to make sure your engine is functioning properly. Second notch flaps coming up. And let's roll in some trim here. And number 2, airspeed, is because I want to make sure I wasn't an idiot and didn't leave the pitot tube cover on, which, if you have watched my channel for any length of time, you know I actually did one time in a real Piper Cherokee. And it's hysterical the amount of time it takes between you looking at that airspeed indicator expecting it to tell you something, the amount of time it takes you to realize it's not going to tell me anything is pretty long. It really is. It took me a while before reality set in. Alright, 1,000 feet AGL. Nose is coming way up. I want to push that down, put a little trim in. Alright, fuel pump is off. Fuel pressure is good. St. Barts traffic. Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar is off runway 10 southbound. We are climbing through 1,500 St. Barts. So cruise climb is good right now. Cruise climb in this airplane is 90 knots. Cruise climb is really 100 knots, but on a day like today, I don't mind climbing a little bit more aggressively. And here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is full ultra, just stock ultra settings. I didn't change any of the terrain level of detail or any of that nonsense. I mean, it's changed because it's what ultra, whatever ultra puts it as, but I don't know the answer to that. And there is St. Barthélemy. Those are some well-heeled citizens down there. And where are we going? Oh yeah, we'll go over there. So, yep, no poor people in view at the moment. Yeah, that's not true, but so far I am liking what I am seeing. Full ultra. Getting 28 frames per second locked on the climb out. I don't know if you guys can see that overlay that I put up. Oh, I was wondering why it keeps turning to the right. It's because I have the fuel on the left tank, so there's a fuel imbalance. And in Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you have a 1 ounce fuel imbalance, you will get a massive hang in one direction. I'm pulling back on the mixture a little bit. Looks like we got a little bit of a headwind, but nothing serious. Cool thing about being VFR when you're flying to an island is you can just look out the front window and it's pretty obvious where you're going, you know? If I was flying to St. Kitts and I was looking out this window and there was no island in front of me, that would lead me to wonder what's going on. 3,700 climbing 4,500. Alright, let's see here. Oil pressure looking good. Fuel looking good in both tanks. I'll switch tanks here in a second. Fuel pressure is good. Oil temperature is good. Now what happens, ladies and gentlemen, if I were to look down here, 4,100 climbing 4,500, and my oil pressure was green, and my oil temperature, that needle right there, was pegged over here to the left, what would that mean? Give you a moment to think about it. If I just kept an eye on it, first of all, let's get leveled out here. We're 50 feet below our cruise altitude. Let's push the nose over into level flight. Pull the throttle back until you hear a noticeable change in RPM. Apply a gross trim application, which means just an approximate trim for what you think you're going to need. And then just let the plane settle, see what it does. Look at that, spot on 2,500. Amazing how often that's the case. Tiny bit more nose down trim. I'm gonna go fuel pump on. Switch fuel tanks. Fuel pump off. Fuel pressure is fine. Just a little bit more nose down pressure, a tiny bit of nose down trim. Start leaning out the engine. Pull that red knob there. Watch the EGT go up. Once that EGT reverses, in a real airplane, you do this quite a bit slower than I'm doing it here. It takes a while to do this, but okay, see, it just reversed. So now we go back in with the mixture lever until we drop 50 degrees, which is 2 lines on the EGT gauge. There's 2 lines, so that's 50 degrees rich of peak. Just precisely where I want to be. A little bit more nose down trim, probably picked up some RPM. I did, so let's pull the RPM back to exactly 2,500. Always want your RPM on an exact number, because you want to know if that number changes. Alright, so back to our oil pressure question. Let's say my oil temperature gauge was indicating over here, dead. First of all, you don't want to really do anything with the engine, because if it's running and you're getting you know, an abnormal indication, it's still running. If it's going to quit on you, you want to use it for as long as you can. So so I'd just assume let it run and let it decide when it wants to die, if it's going to. But if I'm getting a low oil pressure or low oil temperature indication, but the oil pressure is fine, then the likelihood is that your oil temperature gauge has failed. Because if your oil temperature is effectively 0, that means you don't have any oil pressure. That would mean there ain't no oil. What? Don't do this to me right now. The reality is, if you were losing oil pressure, your oil temperature would go up, not down. Because that oil would be working harder. There'd be less oil to absorb the temperature in your engine. Yeah, I know it's successfully connected. I know that. Just stop, please. Stop. Can't you people see I'm doing a test here? 30 frames per second. Pegged. Ultra settings. For those of you who don't know, by the way, here I am rambling on about engines, knowing what this video is supposed to be about. For those of you who don't know, I have a 8700K CPU, which is overclocked on the motherboard at 4.5. So I mean, I didn't use any fancy software. I didn't you know, tweak it on my own, like using my in-depth knowledge of tweaking, because I don't have any in-depth knowledge of tweaking. Will you please stop? It's just getting irritating. It's just a really standard overclock at 4.5 gigahertz. And I have a GTX1080 graphics card that is not overclocked at all. So that's what I've got. Coming up on 20 miles here from St. Kitts. 20 miles we'll make a call, just because it's a controlled field. There's bigger planes coming in here, and I want to make sure that my presence is known. Alright, weather at St. Kitts Bradshaw International Airport. Temperature 29, dew point 23. That's a 6-degree temperature dew point spread. That's getting close to Fogville right there. Altimeter 2982, which is QNH of 1010, which is pretty low. Well, relatively low. Visibility 6 miles or greater. Ceiling at least 12,000 feet. Clouds few at 1,200. Showers in the vicinity of the field. What do they mean by ceiling at least 12,000 and visibility 6 miles or greater? First of all, Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar, 20 miles to the north, inbound runway 7, St. Kitts. Visibility 6 miles or greater means $15 miles will start descending. What was I saying? Visibility 6 miles or greater means basically unlimited visibility. They're not going to tell you it's 7 miles unless it's actually 7 miles. But 6 miles or greater means unlimited visibility. Same thing with, well, I think the ceiling rule is, no, it's 12,000. Who knows why? Who knows why, anybody? If the ceiling is basically unlimited, they will call it 12,000 or greater. So, there is St. Eustatius over there to the right. It's a place I've landed the last couple of videos. Alright. I did this flight yesterday, kind of like at dusk, but I screwed up the video, so I couldn't use it. We're going to begin our descent here. Going to go fuel pump on. We're going to switch fuel tanks one more time. Fuel pump off. Fuel pressure is good. Engine instruments in green. We are flying happy. Now it's runway 07, which means we're going to be landing this way, here to here. So you visualize it using your heading indicator. So we're going to be landing kind of this way, right? So it's right traffic at this airport because of those mountains right there. The airport's kind of right over here. And these hills are to the left of runway 7, so you've got right traffic because of those hills. Still 30 frames per second pegged. So what you do if you're coming from this direction and you've got right traffic and you're kind of on the wrong side of the airport, overfly the field mid-field. The reason you overfly it mid-field is because that way you don't interfere with either arriving or departing traffic. So we're going to aim right for the middle of the runway, just overfly the middle of the runway, and generally you want to overfly the runway at 500 feet above traffic pattern altitude, because then you're going to give some leeway to the folks in the traffic pattern already, which here is presumably going to be nobody, but you never know. There's been a couple mid-air collisions in the United States lately, a couple high-profile collisions, and both of them involved high-performance. I think both of them were twins. No, one of them was a Malibu. Both of them involved high-performance airplanes hitting trainers. And my personal feeling is And the funny, well, it's not funny at all, but one of the Malibu that hit a 152, I believe it was, in Las Vegas, was just flying home from a safety seminar. You can go to all the safety seminars you want to go to, but you actually have to practice safe techniques. It's not just about saying, checking a box. There's a great saying in aviation that the most important hour in your logbook is the next hour. You can fly for 25,000 hours safely, incident-free, accident-free, never hurt an airplane, never bend metal, never injure a person, and cause a pretty big tragedy for yourself as well as potentially others. 2,700 descending 2,000. Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar, 10 miles to the north, inbound runway 7, Bradshaw. And so, I'm really getting the distinct feeling of getting pushed towards that island. So I think there's a pretty good left to right crosswind here, which is going to mean I'm going to have a decent headwind. I think I'm final. I forget what the winds were. But it's not just about winds 220. Winds are 220 at 8. Well, if that's the case, that shortchanges my plans. Huh, alright, well, I always assume that the winds, Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar, we are going to be making our right base for runway 25, Bradshaw. So let's come out here a little bit. I always assume that the winds in the Caribbean are going to be from the east, because they almost always are. And here I am talking about you have to be safe, and I don't even know where the winds are coming from. But I did take the time to find out. But the thing is, like, you've gotta pay attention to what you're doing, and you've got to practice good habits for approaches. Look at that. How cool is that? Got to practice good habits around airports, and that includes radio discipline. It includes cockpit discipline. I'm gonna go full mixture rich, and because I'm doing something that I wasn't really expecting to do, I'm gonna pull the power back a little bit more and slow down a little bit. Whenever you're doing something in an airplane and you're kind of facing something unexpected, slow down. Always good advice. Just slow down. Alright, let's get oriented here. So the runway is going to be kind of like this. So we're pretty much on a right base for that runway now. Keep an eye. Let's see with my fuel. Yeah. Keep an eye out. Because this wind is a little, shall we say, unexpected. First of all, let's pull that nose up here a little bit. Now we're at 1,500 feet. Pull that nose up a little bit to slow us down. Add a notch of flaps. That first notch of flaps we call approach flaps. And approach flaps just help you stabilize the airplane. Alright. I don't want to angle out too much more than I am. So I'm going to get... Alright, so I've got the 2.5 right in that right hash mark there. That means I am on a proper right base. Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar, 3 mile right base, runway 25, Bradshaw. And the one thing I'm going to look at to make sure that the wind is where I think it's coming from is I'm going to watch my ground speed versus my indicated airspeed. And I know indicated airspeed is only approximate for, you know, the purposes of what I'm using it for, but it's good enough for government work. In other words, what I would really want to compare is my true airspeed to my ground speed, and I think there actually is a true airspeed indicator on this, and there is. It's this thing down here. But I'm not going to bother with all that. Let's go fuel pump on. The mixture is rich. On a good base here. And a second notch of flaps. So still zero performance problems. Pull the power back a bit because I've still got 4 whites. Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar turning a 3 mile final runway 25, Bradshaw. And it's always better to turn in a little too soon than a little too late. So I'm going to pull some power because I've still got 4 whites. I might have 1 red there. Actually, I think I got 2 white, 2 red, which is pretty sweet. I've never landed runway 25 here. Yeah, that's and it looks 75, 75. It looks pretty even Steven as far as the wind goes. And if anything, it looks like maybe a bit of a left crosswind. Definitely a bit of a left crosswind. Alright, now we're just going to work to keep on glide slope. Wind feels a little bit gusty, so I'm pretty happy to be on 2 notches of flaps. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. No, 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 nope. You're not doing this to me. You're not doing this to me. Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscar, short final 25, Bradshaw. Alright. No, 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 nope. See? Now it's going to want to dive. Alright. Alright, we get that first red leg, bring some power back in. Okay. Yep, I knew you were going to do this to me at some point. Trying to make me look bad. You're not going to do it. Airspeed is good. Power out. Level off. Pull the nose up just a little bit. Alright. Not so bad there. Not so bad. Not so bad. That was really cool. Never landed runway 25 at this airport. That was really neat. One thing I just realized is I'd never looked for a windsock. The next thing I realized is I don't know where the windsock is. So, I mean, I could tell from the way the plane was flying. that ground. I was looking at the ground speed right here, and the indicated airspeed, and it was really pretty much the same. Which, if anything, means no wind. Mitar was telling me that the wind was from the west, so alright, we're clear the runway. Let's put on the brakes. Bradshaw traffic, Warrior Foxtrot Delta Oscars, clear the runway, Bradshaw. Alright, let's put the flaps up. Fuel pump off. Mixture is already leaned, and you want to open your window because it's hot out. The other thing you do when you land at an airport like this is crack your door. So I wasn't expecting that west wind, but if I had gotten on final and my ground speed showed 85 while my airspeed showed 75, then I would have known it was wrong, and I would have known I had a tailwind, in which case I would have gone around or just sidestepped to the left into right traffic. But like I said, it was about 75 even Steven, so in my opinion, runway 25 is just fine. Normally this is a controlled field, so there'd be somebody to boss me around and tell me what to do. But, yep, and here's another bus, because why not? Yep, it's okay, it's alright, it's no problem, just, yeah. Take my wing off, it's no big deal. So, the final task, well, not the final task. The final task while moving. Let's see how we do here. Mixture idle, cutoff, throttle is idle. That sound of silence is me realizing I never turned any of my lights on for that flight. Okay, let's engage the parking brake. Avionics master and battery off. Magnetos off. Master and battery switches off. Open the door, and moment of truth, how did we park? Darn! Darn. I can never get my nose all the way far. Anyway. That was a GTX 1080. What, 4 years old? Card? GTX 1080, 8700K. With a boring overclock. Full Ultra Microsoft Flight Simulator. Frames per second right now are showing 30. And showed 30 throughout the entire flight. I did not notice a single stutter. Not one. So what I had been doing previously was I had like my own custom settings where I had most things on Ultra, but like a lot of things, I'll show you real quick. Like most things on Ultra, but things like I didn't have grass and bushes on Ultra because I don't really grass. I mean, it's not that big a deal. Texture resolution, I think I had on high. Anisotropic filtering, I had on 8. This, I think I had on 4x4. Waves I had on high because that's important to me. Texture synthesis, easy for me to say. I think I had on high. These I probably had on high. I don't even know what Raymarsh reflections are. But like I had these things on pre-caching vector data and buildings on Ultra and trees on Ultra, because what matters to me is the visuals, because I fly mostly obviously, you know, VFR, low and slow. And those are the things that really matter to me. But as I have just seen, I may be kind of underappreciating what my 4-year-old setup can do. So that was Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 on full ultra. And that was a truck with a kamikaze in it. So I hope you guys are doing well. Be good.